share stories with people from the casino industry. Now, here's your cast: John, Mike, Danielle, Michelle, Pippa, and Jay.
Morning.
It's like a pregnant pause. See, I knew whenever Jay's not here, we're like, what do we do now?
Who's talking first?
Okay, I'm just going to say hi. Hi, whoever's watching. Maybe nobody's watching, but if you're listening, thanks for joining. I'm actually really looking forward to that tonight because I haven't spoken to our guest in probably a very long time. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. My name is John, and I'm really excited to be here with Michelle, Danny, and Todd.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure since we've talked. It's probably 10 or 15 years. So, yeah, I'm Todd. For those of you that don't know me, and long time Edmonton dealer, and pit boss, and pit manager, and poker manager. Yeah.
Hi everyone, Michelle. Happy to be here as usual. Especially happy to be here with he's my cousin. He's my cousin Todd. Cousin from marriage.
Same thing.
Welcome back to me, I guess. I've taken a couple weeks off. Excited to be back and to be with the party again. So, hi everybody. Thanks for joining in.
Yay, we're happy to have you, Danny. We missed you.
I missed you guys too.
So I think we usually start with the little, Todd, if you can just tell us kind of how you got your start in the gaming industry, and then just a kind of a summary of your experience in the gaming industry.
Oh man, we got to go way back. I started in '96 at the Palace when it first opened in its new location, as a dealer, obviously. And really my intention the whole time was just to get a couple of years under my belt and then hit the boats and leave to go cruising. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, right when I'd gotten roulette and had enough experience and I'd already submitted my application off, I ended up in a relationship that lasted 10 years and I didn't want to leave. So put that on hold, and then life happens, right? Life comes at you fast and plans change. So
Yeah.
I've been a dealer, a pit boss, a pit manager, a games manager, poker manager, houseman, whatever, kind of the whole gambit. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually back in the industry. I have been for the last few years as a dealer, because that's the only thing that I really, really enjoyed. The rest of it kind of bored me to tears, but actually dealing is a lot of fun.
Can be fun, yeah. Was that your first trip back, or had you left and come back before, or is that's
So I left in 2000 to do air traffic control.
Right.
I went to Toronto for 2 years and hated it. It was a misery down there, and came back to Edmonton. And I thought it was the air traffic control that I didn't like. So when I got back to Edmonton a few years later, they actually changed the way the rules worked, and I wouldn't have to go to Toronto to do air traffic control. I could do it here. So I went back and realized that it wasn't really Toronto that I didn't like. It was the air traffic control. And so 4 years worth of doing that was enough, and kind of made my way back in. I've left a couple of times. I left for the auto industry for 6 years and really enjoyed it, but the hours were brutal, and my kids are young, and it just didn't make sense. I was working 70 hours a week, and my phone rang at all hours of the day and night. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I came back to the casino and was back for maybe 8 months, and then COVID hit. So I stayed home for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John. I feel like I cut you off before.
No, it's okay. Loretta's on. Hey, Loretta.
Loretta. We love Loretta. Hey, Loretta. Yeah, you worked with Loretta. She's for sure you did.
Of course. Yeah. And I still see her every once in a while working as a cage advisor. So,
of course.
Hey, Loretta, welcome.
So I have a question. We've over the last, it seems like 2 years we've been doing this, or 2.5 years, however long it's been, quite a long time. A lot of the things we've talked about, especially dealers and friends of ours who've been in this industry quite a long time, what have you noticed that has changed from the time you started, maybe in '96 to today? I mean, you went out in and out of the industry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So from then to today.
The actual workings in the casino, I don't think have changed a lot. Really, I think Alberta is kind of one of those strange places where the way the casinos run doesn't evolve, where Vegas changes quite rapidly. But the big place where I've noticed a lot of changes is it's not like it was when I first started, where we were all kind of around the same age, and it was a lot of fun, lots of partying. Everybody kind of knew everybody. You'd all go out after work, and there'd be lots of that. Where now it's kind of not that way. Like people just go in, they do their work, they go home. There might be small clusters that hang out together, but otherwise there's not a lot of socializing. And really, for me, I'm okay with that because I'm at the age now where like I don't really want to go out and drink after work. I just want to work and go home.
I agree.
Wait, at your age, Danny.
But in fairness,
I just want to go home and chill too after work.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why a ton of us stayed in it, even like some of us, left the industry and came back just part-time. I mean, I used to hang out with, Arden used to come back on the weekends just to hang out because it was so fun. It was more of like, you'd known all these people for such a long time, and it was just like fun to hang out, and it was fun to deal and to, like, I remember seeing you on Roulette. I was like, man, this guy is so good. And it was a laugh. I mean, like, be chipping and be like, to be a partner on it. And it was like less like work and wasn't that, it's all monotonous because after a while it becomes like that. But the people were so like much fun. You made the fun, like the night was fun, right? Yeah.
And for me now, like I still kind of look at it that way. Like I try to make it fun whenever I'm at work, but it's not so much with the people that I work with as it is with the customers that are at the table. Like I spend a lot of time in poker or roulette or high limit when I am there. And I know all of those people so well. I mean, other than the Baccarat players, then I mean, that it's not my own personal favorite place, but like roulette and poker, I know all of those guys. So it's tons of fun. And I mean, I can tease them and joke with them and have fun. And I find some of the staff don't do that quite so much. I mean, every once in a while you'll get a chipper, but I mean, we deal solo most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it like a busy game too? Like all colors out?
We have our moments. I mean, it's like most days it's not that way, but you'll get rushes where you'll be 4 or 5 colors out, 6 colors out and alone. And every once in a while they might send you over a stacker, but not always. Like there's lots of times where you can get busy, but the difference now is that I find players are playing a lot bigger denominations. So, I mean, back in the day, it was, we'd go dollars up to 5s and really that was it. And if you had, and we were 10 high on the inside, so it wasn't that bad, but now we're 50 on the inside. So we've got guys, anything from like $25 chips to quarters to, to 2.5s to 5s. It's kind of runs the gamut. And I mean, when they're blasting and they're playing dollars, like it can, even with 3 players, it can get pretty cumbersome if you're alone.
Yeah.
But you got to muck well. Like if you can't muck, you're going to be in like purgatory for some of the bad dealers.
But it's so fun like that, though.
Yep.
It's so much
fun.
fun.
I'd rather it be that way. I find like an hour-long shift goes by in minutes when it's that way. If I have 2 people that are playing $5 on the outside, like that hour feels like it's the entire time.
I've always found that like roulette can be like an amazing game to deal. Like there's lots of and exciting when people are actually making bets and blah blah. Or it's terrible. Like you said, like you got 2 players, one's betting red, one's betting black, and you're like, oh.
And you can only stare at the green numbers in the wheel so much.
Oh yeah.
It's but I'm sure dice is the same way, where you've got you got a guy that's playing a flat 5 on the pass line, and that's all he's got, and like
like there's nothing you can do to make that exciting. Like one guy's got $5 on the pass line, and he's throwing a dice, and you're like, oh my god, there's 4 dealers, 2 boxmen, and this is all we have to do. It's like nothing is going to make this an exciting game. Like no stickman in the world can make this sound exciting. You're like,
there's no call that saves that. Like you can have the funniest calls ever. It's falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, and it used to make me laugh when it'd be like on the other end, the dead games in the palace anyway. Somebody be like, do you need a stacker over there? I'll just go and Todd's there, and I'll just go and hang out with him. I'll be like, okay, bye. And then just like, the reason why. They just want to escape the boredom and just like goof around, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was the best part about the Palace. I mean, we had such a good crew, and that's the one thing that I find has changed a little bit too, is the caliber of dealer has kind of degraded a little bit, where back in the day, like they were really, really strict about who they put on games. And like, if you didn't meet their standards by the end of your probation, you just didn't deal. Where now I find there's a lot more latitude. Like there's more leeway for dealers, and I mean there are some that are. Like if it was 20 years ago, they would have never ever touched the roulette wheel.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Comment
so
from
Loretas,
Loretta. I think the 3 a.m. close changed the casino scene. Everything is closed when you get off work, so no place to socialize.
Yeah, it's very true. Unless you go to someone's house.
Yeah, big difference between 2 a.m. close and 3 a.m. close, right? 2 a.m. they would let us pre-order and we'd have an hour, right, to hang out and drink the drinks.
Yeah.
This is from Joe. I know Jay reposted it on YouTube, but just from Joe, blame it on devices in the break room. I think that's the socializing and like that he's talking about, you know, people are in their phones instead of playing Big Two or whatever the case is in the break room.
Yeah. And there's lots of times you go into our break room and it's absolute silence.
Yeah.
Like unless the TV's got volume turned on, there isn't talk for all 15 minutes, and then they just all kind of pile out. Like, so I mean, really for me, whatever. I don't care. Just pay
Unless
me.
you just happen to get break with like that one friend that you're friends with at the casino.
Yeah.
And then you two are the only two chatting in the workroom, or you go outside for like smoke or vape or whatever you do, just some fresh air.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, I agree. It's there's like small cliques, but it feels like we're all just there to do the job and then to leave and go home and to be friends with whoever we're friends with outside of the casino.
Yeah.
I think that's terrible though. I mean, it doesn't create like employee engagement. Like, in all honesty, when last week, they mentioned, oh, Todd's coming on. And I was like, oh, Todd, awesome. I remember you were so much fun. But one of the things that I always remember was the break room when we had that pool table in there. Remember in the Palace? And straight away, I was like, oh my God, I remember when Todd would torture Don.
That was my favorite. Like, it went for months, like just months. And all he said is he just wanted to have me pay for the table one time, and it never, ever happened. Ever.
Honest to God, I'd be like, who's, like when you see, and it was always like a static break list, like you're always on the same people. I'd be like, who am I on break with? I was like, oh my God, I'm on with Don, Todd. Oh my God, this is going to be so much fun. And it was, and I loved it because it was engaging and it was funny. And like, you're like, okay, I've got to work for 45 minutes because I've got to go and break because it's going to be some fun, right? And and I think that was a lot of the stuff, right? It was.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of trash talking between Don and I, and he never backed it up ever. So yeah.
Well, talk about pool. Like Todd is for those of you who don't know, Todd is a very, very accomplished pool player. And wasn't Peter O? Wasn't he a very good poker player or pool player as well? Yeah,
we had a whole crew of them actually. We had 3 or 4 friends of mine that all went to the Palace for brief stints. Like there was Peter and Jim Fong and Bill Gann and Rob Phillips and all of them. Like
good.
Like
poker.
Bill was a pro. He played on the senior pro tour in the States and won events down there. Like he was legit. Really,
it's like someone was trying to put it together like a Ringer Palace team or something.
Yeah, they were trying to do that for the corporate challenge.
Yeah, that would be.
And I was like, that's just so completely unfair. Like these people are going in there and don't even know what the end of the queue to shoot with, and you're going to
put it would make the news. Like you guys would just annihilate everybody.
I never signed up for that, but like it just wasn't my thing. Those guys are going out there to have fun, and we were just going to go out and torture them. And I was like,
I've
done that before. The novelty myself.
Jay had put a comment from there was a hello, and that's actually Jolene C. Remember Jolene?
Yeah, you betcha. Of course.
Yeah, so it's nice to see her. That's a blast from the past a little bit, so that's cool. So from Mandy, when I worked on the ships, I couldn't believe the stories I heard about the crazy roulette action in the UK.
Yeah,
I don't know about roulette action in the UK, but
it was depending on like where you lived. I mean, like where I lived in, when I originally trained in Cardiff, we had 25-cent roulette. So and it was a privately owned casino. So the owner was like, I don't care how much you bet, whatever. And so we had some people who would bet like, huge amounts, but like a few chips. Or we'd have some guys, and you think the casino I trained in, we had 12 roulette tables and only 7 blackjack. And on a Friday, it would be packed. And we used to get some guys would come in. We had this Asian guy. And when I first started, he terrified me. And I didn't want him for last 3 spins. His name was Arrogant John, but he was incredible. He would come in, he would buy in like $500 or $600 or pounds, sorry. And he'd be like, just all chips. And you're like, what? And then he goes, spin the ball. And you're like, what? When he first started, and then you put it on one number. And then he'd be like, please, God, don't come in. Don't come in. You know, like the last two spins, and you're like, because you know, all the other tables go, and then all the savages come around. You're like, oh my God. But after a while, I'm like, this guy was amazing. And he'd be like, John, it's like 800. He goes, just give me your chips. So we give him like 3 colors. And he was like, yeah, fine, man. And he'd be like, oh, did he just pick a number? And he's like, oh my God. But it was fun, right? And he like, after a while, like, this guy is a rock star. He was just so much fun.
Those games are the most fun, though. They make the night go by. Like, that's...
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing that got my adrenaline pumping more than having a game where it was skyscrapers down on the bottom end of the layout. And, like, especially at the last 2 spins of the night where you're just praying that, please, no, 26, 29, 32. Like, that's it. Anything but those ones, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I remember one night, and I was chipping, and it was like some dealer, and they weren't that good. And they were pretty new. Anyway, they're like, you know what it's like with new dealers. They're like, oh, they're slower, so all the other tables close around them, and like, oh my, they swarmed to him. And they came, and this game was huge, and he went like, boom, whoop, and they marked a split.
Oh.
And we're like, oh my God, it was just chaos. It was just like literally, we're like, you know what, we're closed. They should pay them all. What do you have? Was that enough? Yeah, okay. We'll see you tomorrow. It's only a loan. Don't worry. You'll lose it tomorrow.
That was like my worst fear. And I had that happen. Like, I didn't mark a number wrong, but my last 2 spins of the night, I think Arden was my stacker, and I was fairly new. Like, I might have only been like maybe a month in, and our game was just towers, and it was crazy busy. And I repeated 29 as my last 2 spins of the night. And I don't remember who was my games manager, but all I remember them saying to me is, I hate you. The ball dropped in the wheel, and it was like we weren't getting out for a long time. They had everything, splits, corners, alleys, all of it. Everything was jammed up, and I just, like, it was one of those ones where you go put the marker on and your hands just shaking as you're setting it out. Yeah, did not enjoy.
Oh man, that's impressive. Daryl, morning all. Hey Daryl, tried and
Thanks,
true,
Starkey.
Daryl.
The beauty regiment that's helping.
Mike Stark, the slacker. Hey Todd, looking good.
Slacker. That should be his name, not
From Daryl, call the wrong number, mark the wrong number, and clear the correct number. Did that twice to new pit bosses. Oh man.
But I remember back home. I don't know if you will, because we used to have like left and right-handed wheels, so the numbers would alternate. So many times people would be like, oh, 16 is here, not on this table. It isn't over there. So many times.
It makes you look almost unprofessional, because when you have like a full layout, and then you're on like, and then you're on the opposite wheel, and then I'm lifting up the stack to see if it's the same number. I'm like, I think it's right.
Yeah, you're like, oh, there it is. Yeah.
It takes you back to your rookie days. It's like, I hate that I have to do this right now, but
For me, it was that panic rush when I first started trying to find the number. I would look for the one with the least amount of chips on it and then work my way back up the layout. There's 19, so that means that this one is 7, and I'm going back here. Like, it didn't work well, but it got me there at least at the start. Luckily, our crew was pretty good, so they, I think I spent most of my time at the beginning with Arden and, like Ali Farian and some of the dealers that were just exceptional. So you learned a lot of the quick trick habits to kind of get things moving fast.
Lots of really good roulette dealers at Palace in that time frame. Like I started a year or so, 97, so after you, but while you were there.
Yeah.
And there's some, like we talk about this a lot on our show, is like the desire to be better, the friendly competition amongst dealers that kind of existed far more kind of in our day than it does now. And that was a good group to kind of go up against, right? To kind of push you to be better. So
yeah, even when it came to things like stacking alone, we had some people that were just insanely fast stacking.
And no machines back then, right? Like there was no machines.
Then they brought them in briefly and then took them out and brought them back in, and like they were more of a headache than they were worth. And I mean, other than for the humor of them, every once in a while, I remember I was stacking for a dealer, and the chipper jammed, and she reached back to get the chip that was stuck in the machine, and all I heard is clunk, and the wheel started, and it like jacked her hand as hard as it could, and she like stood up like this, and I was like,
Oh, man.
like her hands were terrible already, so the chipper wasn't going to do any like it wasn't going to hurt them. So, but I was like, no, you shouldn't put your hand in. Oh, too late. Like,
Oh man.
yeah.
I would
That
like-
squeal is perfect.
I would rather deal solo than have like a chipper who has no idea what they're doing. Like I need certain colors first, and like I honestly think it should be a standard to have a chipper who also deals the game.
We
It's,
Well, it
have that
used to be.
conversation a lot at Yellowhead
Used to.
now, because every once in a while they'll rotate people through that are just on stationary tables or on a shuffle table, and they'll bring them over, and they won't know the game. But we have like legitimate people who are roulette dealers that it's better to not have them stack for you. I legitimately say that. There are at least 2 or 3 that I deal with on a regular basis that I would rather not have them stack for me than have them. They're more in the way than they are ever helpful. Like never a payout up, and it's just like that's not been taught. And there's nobody, like none of the people that are up above are making that effort to do it, because everybody's kind of just like, whatever, it is what it is. And
Yeah.
you know, before we had our management crew was really, really strict about that. Like you think back to the days of like Ellen and Pat and Shelly and the people that were there, like they weren't going to put up with that.
Yeah.
Especially when, even with X, like X was a great dealer himself, and he wanted kind of everybody to follow that mold. Like,
But I think as well, it was kind of, sorry, I didn't.
No, go John.
But I think it was kind of like you represented your casino, right? So the casino wanted you to deal to an you know, a certain standard, and like, okay, we have these great dealers, and it's a great experience, and it was kind of like a reflection of your casino, right? That they wanted to have great dealers.
yeah,
And what it did is it raised the standard, and everybody else, okay, you like, you know, I remember seeing you, Todd, you were amazing, and you see all these other people be like, oh man, I want to be as good as Todd. Like these new people coming up, and they learn and they progress. But I think now it just seems like the casinos don't seem to have like the same perception of like your dealers, your staff, and how they represent, you know, your casino with the way they deal, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you think back to the Palace when we first started there, when we opened in that location, I mean, we were in like tuxedo shirts and tuxedo pants and vests and bow ties, and the pit bosses were in full tuxedos. They wanted that image. They wanted like, you know, top rate dealers. They wanted it to be a really professional place. And for us as dealers, I remember there was a lot of competition, just friendly, between us and Baccarat and Argyle. And, you know, like they'd say, oh, you know, this guy's a better dealer than any of your guys. And like, oh no. And, you know, it would just turn into a little bit of a battle. And so, yeah, I mean, we all wanted that. And I mean, even when you first came over to box on the dice table, like you blew a lot of people's minds, because they just didn't realize that, you know,
you could be
dice dealers could deal like that.
The
Right? But your
levels,
experience is so much different when you're in the UK, and I mean the action there is, you know, significantly different.
And in all honesty, when I first came there, and I was like, you know, I've dealt with trainees for a long time on a craft table anyway. And when I saw it all, like, you know, these dealers come on, I was like, oh my God, these guys are trainees, but they're incredibly good on other games. Like, you know, the first group of trainees that come on, I was like, holy shit, these guys are good. Like the gyps, you know, it was just like they were learning a new game, but I was like, man, these guys are so good. And it wasn't long before they quickly adapted to like the craps, right? And it was like, oh my, I would say at the time when I was there, craps was probably in the Palace Casino the best table for a player anyway, I think, in Edmonton. It was ridiculously good.
Yeah, I mean, and they really handpicked that crew at the start. Like it was by design that you got the, you know, probably the most experienced crew and the ones that wanted it the most.
Yeah, especially when
it's
like
going to be a bit more.
But it was like, you know, I started. I think it was 3 months after the game had opened, and I was like, oh my! When I came there, I was like, oh my God, these guys are so good. After, like I was saying, like after 3 months, and then I realized, these are like you said, these are like the handpicked, the best dealers in this, you know, at the time, you know, these people who wanted to deal it. These were the ones that like were really good, right? So it created a great starting point and a great benchmark for other dealers then who came on afterwards to be as good as the other ones, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that I found most with the Palace was that they weren't hesitant to tell a dealer that this just isn't, it's not right for you, or you know, maybe at another time. They wouldn't accept mediocrity at that point. especially on the dice game when it was brand new and they were really trying to make a name for themselves, because they had you and Sean as boxmen, and both of you, as crazy as Sean was, like he's a very technically good dealer. It's just a little, rough with the crew that he's teaching. And all the dealers were really good, right? So, I mean, I appreciated that when they were picky about the people that they took. I mean, I remember dealing with dealers that went through roulette like 3 different times and couldn't get through the 12th shift all 3 times. Like,
yeah.
Now it's just, if you have a pulse and you're willing to work, at some point you're going to get kind of what you need. And that's what's happening, where they're like starting guys fresh off the street with a game that's way too complex for them, but they need it. Like, the places are that busy.
I was in Cologne. Well, I won't go say, well, I was on vacation, like a couple of weeks ago, and I was in the casino, and I saw this girl dealing blackjack. And in all honesty, I was like, how is she I mean, she's obviously like, this new, but she was, if this was the card, so this is a card, and she's getting out of the shoe, somehow she had it at the top. I was like, how did somebody like that? And it was just like coming out, and then she was like, and I was looking around, I was like, is she just goofing around? And I was like, isn't someone going to say, like, because she obviously couldn't, so we'd come out of the shoe, and she was like that. Bip. I was like, what? How do you deal like that? It was the weirdest thing, and I was like, is she just goofing around? But no, she didn't talk to players. It wasn't kind of a joke. She was just like incredibly bad. And I was like, how does someone like that be on the table? I mean, this is a client experience, right? The whole casinos, right? It should be fast, fun, enjoyable. Yeah. When it's like that, it's just a horrible experience, and you wonder why, right? People don't play that.
You talk about the standard that the casino set, which is true, I agree. But there's also the standard that other dealers set, like especially on dice, right? So I was in the second class, and it was terrifying, because if the boxman didn't say something, the dealers would just pick the shit out of you, right? Like they would just pick, if you didn't rise to the level they expected and wanted at the table, then you would get it, right? Like you would get picked on. So that's like, good or bad, there was definitely an expectation that was set, and it made everybody better.
That happened on roulette too, before dice came. Like it was the same way. And I mean, there were a number of dealers that might at some point have been technically proficient later that just said, I don't want to do this anymore, because they couldn't, like the learning curve was just too steep for them too soon. And I understood, like, that's just, it's a tough game, and it's not something that, like, no amount of hand holding is going to fix it on a Friday or a Saturday night when you've got 7 colors. So, like, it's kind of a baptism by fire. You get thrown in, and you either make it or you don't. And
Todd, would you agree that you have a sarcastic sense of humor?
What?
I don't know.
Come on now.
So I met and knew Todd long before he was my cousin. And so honestly, when I first met you at Palace, like, I found you a bit intimidating, because he's a very intelligent guy, and he's very sarcastic sense of humor. So it's just like,
sorry if I offended you at some point.
No, there was no offending. It was like, I don't want to look stupid in front of this guy, right? Like that was more like how it was.
I was, you know what though? I mean, for the most part, especially when I had new people or trainees, I understood. I was in that spot before too, and I didn't make it. I didn't make it difficult on them. Yeah. Unless they went out of their way to be difficult first.
Yeah, like you get chances, right? Like, but like if you show you can't do it, like you're gonna get it a little bit.
At some point, it's you either prove you can or you prove you can't, and and I was okay with it either way. Whatever. I mean, but it's so different now too. I mean, I think the big thing that's changed over the years too is that back then it wasn't an industry where you could make like a legitimate living as a dealer. Where now you can. Like the hourly wage is so much higher, and I'm not sure how it is in Calgary, Danny, but tips here are insane, and our poker room drives that. Like we have, I've been off for a couple months now. I'm just doing some recovery after a surgery, but we were seeing like 12 or 13 games on a Friday, Saturday night, and it would be packed, and the tip boxes would be overflowing. Like it went from making $4 an hour to making real money.
Our poker room is the busiest poker room in the city. We, on like a Friday, Saturday, we run like 9 or 10 games most of the time.
Yeah.
Unless there's some sort of tournament going on. But Yeah, it's a pretty busy poker room where we are, and yeah, our poker room does drive a lot of the tips, but so do like the carny games. The carny games are good. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see that quite so much. I mean, our carny games are kind of silly and they don't get a lot of activity, but the poker, I mean, without that, the tips would be abysmal, I think. You know, they would be okay. They might be back like they were in 96, but now like it's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I would say our tips are decent. They're okay.
Yeah.
We also have like just so much staff though. Like we have a lot of people every single day. We're like trying to open up as much tables as we can and keep them open, and
yeah, we don't operate that way, so maybe that's why I see the difference.
Yeah, but our carny games are always busy too. Like I don't really deal them anymore. Like it was yeah, they put me somewhere where I'm a little more useful. But if they like we have like 4 ultimate Texas Hold'ems and like Chase the Flush and Free Bet, and they're always full wait lists on wait lists. It's crazy.
Yeah. We don't see that quite so much. I mean, really for us, our action is all driven by our high limit baccarat room and poker. The table games on the floor, the blackjack and stuff are like people, but,
I think we don't have that many blackjack tables either, but our baccarat is always really busy as well, our high limit, and even our like our secondary pit, which they just raised like the dragon and panda bets, so you're allowed to bet the same as you do in high limit. So it's just crazy everywhere now. Always busy.
We should do a couple of the comments here. So Jay says, I remember John's first shift at Palace. People were talking about him on break, about his dealing style and the technique. Everyone on night shift wanted to go to the table early just to see what he was doing. That putting on a show. Oh, Brandy Craner. Hello, Brandy. This is Todd's wife and my cousin.
Wherever you're hiding, you're allowed to come down here and put your face on camera too.
I think she was laughing when I was talking about Todd's sense of humor and being intimidated at the very beginning.
Can I just add to that? I think that's one of Todd's redeeming features, his sarcastic sense of humor. Because like when I first met him, I was like, "That man, this is funny."
Yes, I completely agree. If that wasn't, I probably didn't make that clear.
I'm sure I offended people over the years. It was never intentional. It might have been once in a while intentional, but very rarely. It was like, you know, it's just the way it goes. I've tried to tone that down a little bit over the years, but I don't think it works. So like, I'll just roll with it.
But don't you find though, like I would say, back in the day, there was a lot of entertaining people because I only really worked in the Palace in Edmonton, right? So you look at how many entertaining, there were so many smart, funny people that worked there on all the different. I'm just saying, not just on craps, but I mean like in general in that casino.
Yeah,
there was so much fun to hang out with, right?
Yeah.
I found that like the one thing that they really did well at the start was the hiring, like the crew that they hired and how they managed to select people was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found even after K-Days, we had some dealers in the K-Days class that I was in because you had to go through there first to get into the casinos. And they all came to apply at the Palace, and all the ones from K-Days that I went, I sure hope that guy doesn't get hired. Like they all ended up going to another casino and they all didn't get selected. And I was like, whoever's doing the hiring is like, their radar is really finely tuned, which is good.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about hiring. I remember the story that someone told me about Toe. Remember Toe? That when he first started in the Palace, when it opened, his English wasn't so great, but he just kept, and his friend was doing the training, just kept going there. And they said, okay, your English is not so great, but you don't have a job. But he just kept coming back. And he just wore him down. Eventually, they just hired him. I was like,
that sounds like something Toe would do.
Yeah, he's just like, nope, I'm coming yet. And he just kept going there.
He was probably one of my favorite of all of the dealers that we had. Like that guy made me laugh every shift.
Oh, yeah.
Like
100%.
Yeah.
Such a classic, Toe.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Daryl, I think we were in the same K-Days class.
Yeah, Daryl asked if Todd, and I mean, Joe started around that time too. I don't know if he was in your K-Days class, but
yeah, I think there was a whole crew of us. Like it was, there was like Karen Van Beek, and
right.
I don't know if Lars was in mine. He might have been in the next year. But you know, like there was a group that kind of all started and stayed, like Michelle and Candace and you know, that whole group. They all kind of you know, and we all stuck around for quite a while. Like I find now the dealers that have been in the casino for the most part have been there either a really, really long time or they've just started and they're completely green. But there isn't a lot of middle ground with like, you know, a year or two. Like it's kind of lifers and newbies.
Yeah, interesting.
I think KD's was a great thing for dealers. I never experienced it. I came on this, you know, my wife and I came to Edmonton the year that they opened all the casinos in Edmonton. I was so looking forward to seeing, you know, like this massive casino and everybody, you know, and participating in the parties and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh no, this year we don't do it. But I heard so many stories about, you know, like all the casinos were shut down. There'd be this big event and you get to know everybody and then you go party together. And I was like, what a great way to kind of like build this casino like industry in Edmonton.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a double-edged sword. Like the parties were fantastic and they would be every night if you wanted them. The casino itself was abysmal. Like the floor was like hard concrete. Your knees would burn for like 2 weeks afterwards. Yeah. The customers were not overly good. And tips, I mean, the year that I worked K-Days, our tips were $1.91 an hour.
Yeah, they were pretty.
They were awful. Like,
yeah. I only worked 1 year because when I went to Yellowhead, I think there's a mandatory requirement, kind of like they really pressure. And I did it 1 year and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like for me, I wasn't partying with those people. Like I didn't, you know, that's not what I ended up doing. So really I just worked a shit ton of hours for no overtime. That's what I did. You know, like because you work at the regular casino and then you go work at K-Days and you do both for the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, it was, if you were into the parties afterwards, it was really fun. But other than that, like the casino itself, I was thankful that we stopped being forced to go.
Daryl says the table would wobble 8 to 12 inches each way.
Yeah. I remember a guy in my training class, he finished first in our training class, but he had absolutely no interpersonal skills at all. So he sat on the spare board for almost the entire K-Days. And then with like 3 or 4 days left, they finally put him on one of the giant money wheels. And he was there for like 10 minutes and pulled the wheel down on himself and just about knocked himself unconscious.
Did they rank you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they tested everybody. And I mean, the trainer that we had she was an ABS trainer. So pure now, but she was ABS back then. And she was really, really old school and really tough.
I like that.
Yeah. So they had, and I mean, technically the guy was fantastic. He was kind of like Rain Man a little bit with like the math and everything, but like absolutely just no clue how to interact with people. And that was one of the guys I was like, if he works at the Palace too, this is going to be crazy. And like, he did. Yeah. But
Brandy. Oh, sorry. This is from earlier. Charisma and personality was the best when at work for sure. And helped build that for sure. True story. Toe was a wonderful man. Yeah, we definitely all miss Toe. And this one was on this conversation. That was also what built the camaraderie in the casino family. All casinos together for one cause. K-Days also weeded out the D list, right? So you had like a week and a half or whatever to scout how the new dealers are.
Yeah, that's actually how I got hired at the Palace. Was Arden was one of my pit bosses at K-Days.
Yeah.
And I had to call. He got called over when I was relieving a guy because the guy made a crazy error and Arden was fixing it. And then he stood there and watched me for a while and told me that I should apply. And when I did, my person that was doing the interview was Brenda Farian. And I was like, as soon as I said Arden, she's like, yeah, you're kind of hired. Like,
yeah,
Arden said you're good to go, you're good. So,
yeah, I mean, I remember. Oh, Nicola.
No, Nicola, it wasn't Darcy. It was Judy Kuchmak. Like cranky, little tiny. She ended up being a casino advisor later, but she was like a super hard ass in the training class.
Nicola's comment was that Darcy, the hard ass trainer? And yeah, that's what Todd was commenting on. David from YouTube, when you say poker drives the toke rate, most poker dealers here in the US keep their own tokes, even when table games shares tokes. The exceptions that don't care known to regular players.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, Danny.
So here, like during regular casino hours, poker and table games share their tips. And then during graveyard hours, like from 3 till 10 or till noon, when the casino floor opens, that's when the poker dealers themselves keep their own tips and they share between each other. So it's a really small crew.
Yeah. The difficulty with having the dealers in the poker room keep their own tips all the time is that you are at the mercy of the scheduler. So like we don't have dedicated poker dealers per se, but if you're scheduled on a baccarat table that's going to draw no tips, and that's what you're going to get. So they didn't want to do that. And the other thing is they wanted to have those poker tips drive the wages up for tips across the room. That way they don't have to increase the wage that they're paying.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And that's why we've got as many poker tables as we do, because they realize that we're not complaining about our wages when the tips hit, you know, the numbers that they're at.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like talking about tips is I've always felt that there should be a differential between the day shift and the night shift. Because, you know, you think when you work nights, you know, like in a regular casino, it's unsociable hours, right? So you work from 7 till 2 or whatever. You remember, like, was it like 12 till 7 and 7 till 2, whenever it was?
Yeah.
But that was kind of like 12 till 7 was kind of like the normal shift. And it's like, oh, we do this. But then the tips were split between like the day and the night as if they were the same. I always thought that, well, there should be, you should get paid more, the tips, a higher portion of the tips if you're working in the evening, you know, like that night shift. Mm-hmm. So for instance, all right, if you're going to split it if you're going to have it for 2 days, or you work, you know, one Monday, Tuesday, the day, well, then you get Monday, Tuesday, day tips. The night shift, I think day and night shift should be split.
Well, here's the thing is, like, yeah, you can say that, but then also almost everybody in the industry I know just like is waiting for the day that they can get on the day shift, so that way you can have like more of a social life or whatever. I remember when I was working at Cowboys, and I was like, so what do I have to do to get on day shift? And the games manager said, be 80 years old. Like,
someone needs to die.
So I was like, oh, okay, that's great.
but it shouldn't be like, you know, like a longevity reward to be like, okay, you now can. I'm to be honest, because I managed to do it too. I mean, I used to do 11 shifts out of 14, you know, all day shifts. And I don't think, you know, I was sitting box at the time, but if I was taking tips, I don't think I should have earned the tips for working the unsociable hours.
Well, that's difficult, because then, like, you know, it's going to be really hard to schedule that. Like, that's going to be difficult to.
From the casino's perspective, they definitely don't want that, because
of course not.
They're trying really hard to not have to increase wages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the minimum wage, when it went up to $15 an hour in Alberta, it made it really tough. Like, you know, they can't change the commission on all the tables. They can't charge, you know, they can't change the house advantage. We can't make blackjack even money now or something. So when their wages are going up from like $6 an hour to $15 an hour, where do they recapture that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and their big thing is, if we can just make sure that we don't have to keep increasing it from 15, 16, 17, maybe, by making sure that tips are consistent across the board, it's easier on them.
That's
right?
true.
They've even tried to do that with pit bosses, where they've got some casinos now that are giving pit bosses a share of floor tips, because they don't want to have to pay them an increased wage. Well, they should, but I mean, it's also a bit of a conflict of interest when you have people that are making decisions on the game for rulings, and they're also taking a share of the tips. If that guy is a really good tipper that you have to make a ruling on, is he going to get a beneficial ruling just because you don't want to anger him and have him walk out the door?
I completely agree. I in all honesty, I think in all honesty, AGLC, in my opinion, takes too much of the money that should go back to these casinos. Like revenue, like the cost of this, you know, this experience has gone up, but the split between what the casino takes and what AGLC takes hasn't been changed based on those increased costs, right? Yeah. So I think realistically, it should be like, okay, these costs need to be like reflected in the split between what the casinos make, because obviously they want to make a fair, you know, revenue on it stuff, and the dealers should make a, you know, a fair revenue. But I don't know, too much goes to the like AGLC, in my opinion.
Of course, particularly from slot machines. Like when we're giving up 85%, but I mean, the trade-off is that we also don't own the slot machines, so we're not paying for them.
Yeah.
other than paying for the staff and the electricity to run them. So there's no incurred cost that way, where the casinos in Vegas, I'm sure they're on the hook for those, but they're also operating like a business, taking all their revenue and then just paying tax on it. So
I don't know. I don't think pit bosses get like their fair share, because like as a pit boss myself part-time, like I'm constantly like engaging with customers, making sure they're having a good customer experience. And then like I've had like people be like, so do you get any of this? And I'm just like, give it to the dealer, I guess, like it can be frustrating when you yourself are also giving the customer service that you should be. And I feel like if the pit bosses or the housemen aren't getting compensated well enough, then you have people who don't really want to be there doing the job, and therefore they're doing like the bare minimum that they can possibly do.
Yeah, we're struggling right now to keep people in pit boss positions and poker houseman positions.
Absolutely.
Simply for that reason. And they see like a lot of them now, when they're being hired, if they're experienced dealers that are coming in, they're being told that they have to be a dual rate.
Yeah, same.
Because we can't fill those spots, because the rate that pit bosses are making right now, when you factor in what dealers make for an hourly rate and what the tips have been, the disparity is enormous.
It's huge.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And I mean, I feel bad for them, but like that was the one thing I negotiated when I went back in 2019, is I said, I absolutely want nothing to do with anything management related. I just want a deal. And luckily they said yes. So,
yeah.
I feel bad for the pit bosses now, though. It's definitely.
Comment from Nicole Worrell. Nicholas says, "Hi, Todd." Hey,
Nicole.
Hey, Nikki, how are you?
Nice to see you, Nikki. And from Daryl, gotta go. Good show. See you next week. Great to see you. Looking so good, Todd.
Awesome.
Always nice to see Daryl. He's definitely our number one fan.
I see him here every night.
Yeah.
He's
not here, we noticed.
We're like, hang on a minute, it's 9:23. Where's Daryl? What's he doing?
Someone welfare check. Someone send someone.
To answer your question, Nikki, they're really, really good.
Yeah, they're very good.
I'm not going to give you a real number, but they're really, really good.
Yeah. You can DM them.
Yeah, you can direct message me and I'll tell you, but not on the chat.
Yeah.
I think they're $1 or $2 an hour, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
really good. Like 75 cents an hour. It's back into like $1.91. That was the heydays of tips. If anybody from the CRA is watching, $1.91.
I invested that $1.91 all those years ago. I'm ready to retire now.
Compound interest, baby.
Exactly. Yeah, we're doing great now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Do you remember that? I mean, maybe I shouldn't bring this up.
There's a lot of things that I remember. Like there's some super funny stuff, some crazy stuff. I mean, I think John, you might be at the center of one of my favorite memories of all of the casino stuff was when you did that really tough contest for the bear. Wasn't it you that waxed your entire body?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was. Well, I can tell you the story is quick. So it was a long time ago.
I just remember you itching for like weeks afterwards. Every time I walked by you, you were scratching at your chest like a crackhead.
I was. It was odd. So this one night, my wife and I we had an argument. The next day, I get a phone call. So we weren't talking, and I get a phone call from her, and she's like, "Hey, John, how you doing?" I'm like, "This is odd. What's going on here?" She said, "Would you have a full body wax?" And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Would you have a full body wax?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." She said, "Just say yes or no." I said, "Well, maybe for charity." She's like, No, just say yes or no." I was like, "Okay, sure, yes." And then it went, boom. Okay, and then they went, "Hi, this is Yukon Jack. You're on the Bear Radio. Will you come in tomorrow for a full body wax for a chance of winning $25,000?" I went, "Okay, sure." And he was like, "What? Are you a freak? Why did you want to do that for 20?" I was like, whatever. Let's see what it's like. So then I had to go in the next day, and it took 3 hours, to do. And at the time, I had a goatee, and they went kind of like off, when it was arranging it, like, "Oh, if you have facial hair, you have to shave that off because the the people who are going to wax you told me it just tears your face apart if you do. I was like, oh, okay. So I had to shave that. But so we went there, and my wife, I had to go into, I had to go to work and go, yeah, I'm going to be late tomorrow because I'm going to have a full body wax on the radio live for a chance to win 25,000. They're like, what? So I was like, okay. And then my wife took the day off because she's like, okay, I got to see this. So we went to the Bear on, the Bear radio. And then they kept coming. I walked in there and I was dreading. I was like, oh man, now I think this is a dumb idea. So I was like, well, whatever. So I walked in there and it was these two like really pretty girls, like in their 20s. And I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. So the first thing they said was like, okay, we're not doing down there, like pointing to out like, your waist area. They're like, we're not doing down there because if we do it, we'll attract all the weirdos. I was like, oh, thank God for that. So they turned around to me and they went, okay, on the radio, just pretend it happens. I was like, okay, that sounds right. So anyway, they did it all. And they were like, every now and again, they come and check and they go, okay, this is your contact. No, rip something off. And they go, poof. And he took my eyebrows off in one go, like, poof. And I'm like, ah! And then they go, all right, rip some more. And he would rip all the hair on my chest. And I was like, oh. So, and everyone, it was just, oh my God, it was a terrible experience. But anyway, when they finished, like things were bleeding. And, like we have eyebrows for a reason. And things were kept going in it. And I was blinking a lot. And I looked like a serial killer. Because he all swelled up. And I was like, literally, I was like, and I was like, holy Jesus Christ, man. I would go into stores and I'd be like, excuse me, can you help me? And people would turn and go, no. And I was like, oh my God. So anyway, so they did it all. And when they finished, I was like, oh my God. And then they gave me a coupon. They're like, you can get 25% off if you want to do this again. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, I'm never doing this again. But my wife was like, oh, it feels so nice. You look so soft. And it was like, it looked like, so I went home and they're like, oh, put this like, lotion on, it'd be all good. And I went in the shower and I was like, it looks like I've got hairy shorts on because there was no hair. I'm like, literally where my boxer shorts were down and my boxer shorts up. I was like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever done. And I've done the weirdest shit in my life. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in hairy shorts. And then, like Todd said, it took weeks to grow back, especially oh my God, the eyebrow thing. Remember that movie, The Hills of Eyes? I looked like that lunatic. Just like a more shorter version of this scary
this story.
Oh my God.
20 years later, it's even better than it was the first time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you know what? The first time it happened, and this is funny, as soon as I got off the phone with the Bear radio station, Colin, like your cousin, whatever, phoned me straight away. And he was like, I just heard you on the Bear. I was like, he goes, and I knew it was you. I was like, oh my God, I got to go in tomorrow.
I remember, I found out about that, I think, like from hearing it on the radio, and I knew it was you right away. I mean, your voice is so distinct, right? I was like, that is John Holland.
I do know what the funny thing is, well, right? So we went to the, I can't remember, some bar, and they were like, remember there was like the horrible things, like some guy had to give his friend a prostate exam. Someone gave his mum a bikini wax. There was all these horrible things. And it was like, they kept telling us like, oh, don't worry, when you go there. So we all line up and we walked around this bar and we had to wear what we did, full body wax, prostate exam, blah, blah, blah. We walking around and people were like, oh my God, I listened to you. Oh, I saw that one. And it was fun. And then they made us all stand up on the stage, right? And they said, okay, but don't worry, there's all these envelopes. And they had this like drum where you spin it and pull your name out. And they're like, so what are we going to do? When we pull your name out, you call your name and you grab an envelope and you go blah, blah, blah. So mine was the second name to come out. So I saw it because we all stood behind. They went, like this. It was like, and I could see it said John. I was like, all right. And I grabbed it, walked off the stage. It was $150. My bar bill was 145. No, sorry. Yeah.
So after tip, you're a net loser.
Yeah, and then I have to get home. I was like, I lost money doing this.
But you have a story that lasts forever.
Yes.
Oh, and do you know the funny thing as well? They published like the PDF on the Bear, right? And I have that somewhere. I should bring it out. Literally, it's me screaming like, ah! And in the background, you can hear my wife literally crying, laughing as I'm getting tortured by these girls ripping the head off me.
That's probably in my top 3 or 4 casino stories for sure.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
don't want to forget to talk about the event that we have coming up. I know Jay's
Yes.
has put in a lot of work in this, and thanks to the people at Pure that have kind of given us the ability to use the Pearl Showroom there. So it's September 17th, Pearl Showroom. That is hard to say. At Pure Casino Yellowhead. Doors open at 7. There'll be a dinner, entertainment, dance, and I think tickets are $40. They include $25 in free play, and we're fairly confident also a free drink. So
Yeah.
It'll be
So
a
you're
lot
gonna
of
get
fun.
the link is posted in the Casino Industry Canada Facebook group. There's a link there if you want to buy tickets.
Yes.
and I'm really
Bring your
looking
friends
forward,
too.
in all honesty, really looking forward to meeting everybody in person again. So
Yeah.
Todd, if you're gonna go, I really look it'd be great to catch up with you again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we're
you're
gonna-
I'm
welcome
making
to
the
bring
trek down from
people.
Calgary, so
Yeah, we're looking
be-
forward to seeing Danny. And you're welcome to bring people who never worked in the casino industry. It's not a
Mhm.
requirement.
it'll be fun.
Yeah, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, if we do make it down, I'm not sure yet. We've got a couple of things on the go, and I'm trying to juggle that. But if I do, then somebody's getting my 25 in free play because I work there, so I can't.
Yeah, I don't even think I can
Good
use
point.
it, right? I don't think I'm allowed to use it either.
Yeah, I think you're allowed.
Sure.
You're allowed to play poker for sure, but I don't think you can play table.
Yeah, but
games.
I don't think a match play is good in poker.
No good in poker.
I'll raise your
I'm like,
match
"And
play
I
with
play
my other
this."
play.
I match play.
Maybe you can have match play poker. And then
That'd be so funny.
Our
I'm
games
gonna
are
do that.
mildly crazy. You'd need a fairly large match play to make it last.
That'd be
They
so
are not
Jay
afraid to
also
fire the
posted
money in.
link. Jay also posted the link in the comments in the live stream in the Casino Industry Canada group. So there it is.
Perfect.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll be
Crystal,
really good.
comment from Crystal, the wax story. Yeah, I mean, I think that's gonna go down in history. I mean,
Like that one and Sean Joyce, the year we got the vests for our Christmas gift, and he was offended and angry, and he came down to deal roulette at 12 o'clock in the morning without his shirt on, just wearing his vest.
Yes.
And one of the pit managers was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I quit." And he just dropped his name tag and left. And I was like,
and he kept walking around the casino because everyone was like, nobody's gonna kick him out. He's just too terrified.
Oh, man.
I really loved dealing with Sean because he was so much fun.
Yeah, he was another crazy one. So yeah, there's a whole crew of them that were great.
Yeah, no F's to give that guy.
Sometimes I wonder what some of the people that were in there in the past are doing, and I kind of lost touch with a few of them, and like some of the crazy ones over the years were the funniest.
Yeah, definitely.
In all honesty, Todd, I think one of the cool things about doing this for the last, however long we're doing it, is reconnecting with people that we worked with before and seeing what they're doing. And, because COVID, we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't do anything. And I think that's been one of the best parts I've liked anyway, out of the whole thing.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, looking through the chats now, I see all the, the old names and faces from the past. So
we had some good mix tonight. You definitely brought out some of the old school
schoolers.
names I hadn't seen.
Yeah, they all came to see you, Todd.
Yeah,
I got my wife off of the Facebook reels and into this. It's perfect. So that's good. Although my daughter walked by once and looked over and was like looking at me like I'd grown an extra head, wondering what I was doing talking to the computer. So that's okay though.
Nicole says she wished she could come see us. Yeah, we wish you could come too. We're just a plane flight away, Nicole. And
looks like hello, random Facebook user. It doesn't tell me who you are, but hi.
That's Todd. Hello, that's Jade.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So hello to Jade. We see her once in a while. We like Jade.
Haven't seen Jade in ages.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Brandy, I told her that her dad was on YouTube.
My daughter's mildly addicted to YouTube at 11, so yeah, I might be a celebrity now. Who knows?
I think it's a pretty common addiction for 11-year-olds these days.
Oh,
Jade
nice. I thought you were at the Cree. Cool.
So Jade says Jade's in Calgary now.
Where?
Where, Jade?
You still in the casino biz, Jade?
See if she answers.
It's okay. I'm sure we'll find out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jade, Danny's
YouTube
coming down
famous.
for the event. You should come down too.
Yeah, we can carpool.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're making the connections, right? Getting people
Just,
down.
we have to figure out how many people we have from here that have moved down to Calgary and get you all in one big bus and ship you all back up at once.
I can't drive a bus, I don't think.
Jade's at Grey Eagle.
Oh, cool. You probably know my friend Zach. I tried to get him on the show, but he's scared.
I'm scared too. I've been scared to come on here since the first day I did it.
Oh, I was petrified. It's so nerve-wracking.
But the thing is, after a while, don't you think like this is never any like it's never terrifying, it's scary. It's just like most of the time we just laugh and joke, and I have a few beers, not to lie, but I mean like sometimes more than others, but whatever. But it was just purely entertainment. I mean, admittedly, some days there's like nobody watching at all, but whatever. Sometimes
I mean,
that's the
it's
best
a lot
time too.
less nerve-wracking now that like I'm like a host, like a guest host, but like when you're in Todd's position, it's like it's mainly about you, and so you're just really intimidated.
I hope I'm interesting enough.
Yeah, you're like,
No worries.
well, this is my story.
I just had to stick with the water today so I didn't have my filter break and then start saying stuff I shouldn't. I don't want to hurt any feelings.
I was looking forward to sarcastic Todd.
I'm still here, man. Don't worry. I've got lots. I might slip up and say something and offend somebody that's in the chat. I don't want to. I don't see any names that look like some of the ones with the stories I've got. So
we'll just wait until we're all in person and they can do it then.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So
That'll
I
be a
think
fun time.
buy their ticket and bring all friends and family, and we can have a hoot. Oh, wow. I'd have a hoot. I swear I'm 24.
Yeah. The only thing better than you saying that was you like realizing that you said that and watching.
I'm gonna have a hoot. How old are you? You're like the youngest one that comes on here. I'm gonna have a hoot.
It's the oldest 24-year-old we know, Danny. I'll be Danny here. So I think we're an hour in here. It's been so awesome chatting with you, Todd.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it was awesome. The thing we kind of do at the end is just do shout outs at the end. So we'll let Jay choose whoever's going to shout out first. There, shout out.
Well, I'm going to shout out to all the folks that are in chat right now. I mean, it's nice to see some of those names from the past. And man, I haven't talked to some of them in years. So like shout out to, Daryl and Nicola and the whole crew.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm going to give a shout out to Jay, who's sneakily behind the scenes, making sure this whole thing goes smoothly, even though he's going to try to have a week off. So thank you, Jay. Thanks to all of our viewers, and see you next week. And hopefully in Edmonton in a couple weeks.
I want to shout out to Todd because it was so good to see Todd again and chat with him. And because I remember, like, Todd's always, when we told, like Todd was coming on, I was like, oh my God, I loved working with Todd. He was so much fun. One, you were a great dealer, but apart from that, you were just a funny, cool person that I enjoyed working with. So it was really good to kind of like connect with you again. And then I would say, then I have to tell a story about being waxed on, but yeah.
Just for those people that didn't know that you got a full body with on radio, I thought I would share that with them.
I think our viewers went up a little bit while John was telling us.
Yeah, I don't know if they're picking up the words that we're saying, and now we're going to start getting different viewers on here because we're talking about body waxes. Like suddenly we're getting strangers that are like, "This isn't what I was expecting. Like, where is the waxing?"
Yeah, like literally, like the weird thing, like the weird unicorn heads, and then the waxing story is like, what the hell goes on in casinos back in the day?
Oh, funny. Oh my goodness. Okay. My shout out is I don't try and think of something different, so I'm going to shout out to everyone who's already bought a ticket to our event and to those who buy a ticket in the future. We're looking forward to seeing everyone at that event. So thanks for joining us, everyone, tonight. And go ahead, Danny.
No, I was just saying yay.
Well, yay.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time, I guess.
Thanks,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Take care. Have a good
See
night.
you guys.